Hi, welcome back to Boat Life Balance. Thanks for joining me again. You're with Captain Ned. I want to talk to you a little bit about getting overexcited when that first part of like buying a new boat or a second-hand boat, especially those of us who are somewhat neurodivergent. The hyperfocus it can be a real catch. It can catch you out, and it can catch you out in a short-handed decision, let's say. So I've got some real world examples, which I'm going to talk about later. But firstly, let's just look at what overexcitement looks like. Overexcitement is I'm all caught up in the features and functions of this boat, and I'm looking at it from the lifestyle, and it's all good, and I can see my kids or my grandkids are using this space and using that space, and I'm on the foredeck, and yes, we can all lounge around here, and I can go out here, and this is great. And oh yeah, it's not quite what I was sort of looking for, but this kind of will do. And now it's here, and I can get it. It's right there. I can touch it. I can smell it. I'm here. I'm standing on this thing. Like I'm in love with this thing, and I just don't want to step away from it, and I don't want anyone else to get it. And there's a broker telling me I've got 4 people interested in this, so I don't want to put any pressure on you, mate, but you might have to make up your mind reasonably quickly. And there's all of that, and your excitement is encouraged, it's palpable, but it's also steerable. And if it's being steered down a rabbit hole in which you go, yeah, it's okay, it's kind of okay, yeah, it's all right, yeah, but it doesn't quite have what we thought, and then you're getting steered down a path towards a purchase, I can guarantee you the buyer's remorse in boating will never be outgunned by anything you've bought in the past, especially if you get it wrong. Okay, we always have that buyer's remorse point, and it's just what comes, and then we go, oh, did I? And that's that little background voice, that little, the little voice that says, should I? And you should have, and you did, and you did that, but then there's that little thing in the back saying, oh, should I have done this? And this is going to work. So let me give you some real world examples of this process of why we need to really calm the farm when buying a boat and when looking at boats, and become excited for the day at the end. The day that we've realized this lifestyle platform, yes, you've heard me say that boats are the things that we as humans build, are the things I believe take on assault. But the lifestyle platform is literally what it is. So you have to look at it in that respect and feel about it in that respect, and then look forward to that day of excitement when you're out on the water. So some real world examples. You've met Rob and Janet in the videos that we've done on their journey with us and finding the boat and also restoring the boat, and they had quite a lot of things happening in their boating world. But there was a point when we were working with them, and we get to this, there's a certain point that we sometimes get to, not often, but sometimes get to, where they go, oh, it's just all too hard. It feels like it's too hard. Are we ever going to find the boat we want? We're looking at all these different boats, and we're ever going to find the boat we want? And it is hard sometimes to stick to your designed criteria that you've discovered through the 4 pillars of boating and your lifestyle expectation, area of operation, ease of use, and budget. And to stick to that modus operandi of what you need to actually do to get to where you want to be in your lifestyle platform. So there was a moment with Rob and Janet, who now have this amazing boat, which they lovingly restored, is still probably, for them it's always a big chunk of change. But as I said, when we were out cruising, I said, if you wanted to do what you've done here for the same amount of money in a second-hand vessel, you'd be looking at $500,000 no less. And if you wanted to do this in a new boat, you'd be looking at a new boat replacement of about $1.1 to $1.5 million. Yeah. So they now have something that fit into their budget. It's now working. It's mechanically A1. It's structurally A1, and they're going to probably hand it down to their grandkids. So, but there was a moment with Rob and Janet, and if you look at if you go into our YouTube, you'll meet them. You'll see, you've seen them talking on LinkedIn with us and Instagram, and you'll see that they're quite comfortable with where they are right now. But there were moments that we worked with them to go, okay, yes, this is taking time, but it's time you need to take, or you'll get taken for a ride. And unfortunately, sometimes that ride is taken by you and unintentionally, let alone someone who's actually actively selling boats, right? So we have another example of just recently, I met some very excited people. They were at the edge of frustration. They'd already put a deposit on one boat, and they went and had a look at it, and it went out, and turbo blew up, and all sorts of horrible things happened to this boat, and they pulled it back in the marina. I went with them to look at another vessel, and they were already sold on the whole idea. They were, oh, this is great. I'm going to fix this up. I know a bit of I can do carpentry. Now, the fellow in the owner here, or the potential owner here, very practical, hands-on. There's like good on tools, all that sort of stuff. Yes, he could probably, dismantle a generator and put it back together and all that sort of stuff. So really hands-on boat owner, which is someone we quite gel with. People who are really hands-on. Owner-operators is where our genius zone is. So, but the boat itself, I knew the boat was non-negotiable at $280,000. I went to the boat, and as I was walking up to the boat, I'm like, not to quote Dale Kerrigan, but I could have rung him up and told him he was dreaming. It was just on appearance and knowing what I know about this style of boat and these styles of boat, I'm going, this thing's worth 160, because that's what the market value of these things were at that vintage. And this one was a very tired example. It had very old engines, so that couldn't get components for. So, and I very rarely do oil samples on one of these boats. Anyway, so I'm digressing. So we're going into what actually happened on the day. But what ended up happening is they didn't buy the boat, and I've just done the back engine checks, and I haven't even done any of the cosmetic checks. I've walked around on the deck, and I'm feeling things spongy and soft under my feet. And it was then that I took the buyer's wife, and they're very much a team. They're very much an effective team. And I went out on the foredeck with her, and I'm saying, look, this is the reality of this boat. It's very tired. I haven't even looked at the cosmetics of it yet. I don't think it's where it is in value. I believe that the owner has probably paid post-COVID or towards the end of COVID way too much for this boat to start with, so he has an overinflated sense of what this boat's worth now in a buyer's market. And then they were still adamant that they wanted this boat. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't just say, you can put lipstick on a pig, mate, but it's a pig, right? Can't just say that to people, because it's, imagine if you were looking at something and I just walked up to you and said, oh, mate, it's a pig. You'd be like, you'd double down to prove me I'm wrong, and we don't want that. The other thing too is they'd also organised a berth at their marina, their local marina. And they're like, oh, we don't want the berth to go because it's a T-head, and it'll make it a lot easier. So they've already literally put the cart before the horse. So they've already got the vision in their head of, we can see the boat at the pier. We've been down to the pier. We've selected the berth for it. We've got all that, and I spent, I think it was like 4.5 hours. And two of those, or an hour and a half or so of that, roughly 2 of those hours, we're actually doing the we won't call it pre-purchase inspection. What we call it is a preliminary walkthrough of the boat. And this one was quite, I don't do invasive. We don't do anything invasive. This is one of the very few times that I've actually taken oil samples from an engine. I have to ask the owner and say, are you okay for me to do that? No, that's fine, because of the vintage of the engines. The vintage of the engines, if there was, even without an oil baseline, a sample baseline, the vintage of the engines was of such that if there was anything in that sample, you'd be just a walk away moment. So we did that, and then we went back to the cafe, sat down and talked about what's going on. And he said, oh, I don't know if he'll move on. And I said things which I'm quite confident with from my knowledge and from my experience. And I actually had to say to the couple, I said, look, I'm not pulling these figures out of my hat. These are real world figures of what it costs to restore a vessel. And the gap between the lower price and the bigger price is if you're doing most of the hand-on work yourself, or you're getting people to do it. Because when it comes to fixing up a vessel, there's certain things you can do yourself, but there's certain things that, for insurance purposes and structural purposes and safety purposes, you have no choice other than to engage a mechanic or or a more importantly a boat builder, and you know, you've got to get engineering drawings and things if you want to make major changes. Anyway, I'm digressing. I'm actually said at one point, you could buy this boat for $80,000 and it would still cost you $500,000. If you did all the work on yourself, it's still going to probably cost you about $300,000. At a minimum, you're going to be looking at an extra $150,000 to just get it to a point where it's insurable, just insurable. So to get through basic insurance for this boat, now, people listening to this, and I say it's a 44-foot boat or a 45-foot boat, people are going, oh, well, you can't really buy a 40-foot boat for that sort of money. That's right, but that sort of money was their chunk of change. Yeah. Yes, a new 44-foot boat is probably going to be, let's look at like a Palm Beach, or let's look at an Efficient or something like that. You're looking at, you know, well in excess of $1 million, right, of a new boat. So they have not got an unrealistic budget, sub 500, but they're going to have to look really, really, really hard. But to look at the boat that they go, oh, we can get it for like 200 and then we can spend 300 on it, they still may not get where they need to. And if those old engines go pop, the repower budget for that, because I went the next level with these people because it's not that I didn't want them to buy the boat, I just wanted them to go in completely wide-eyed, blinkers off. So I said, look, I know exactly how much it would cost to repower that boat. And just to buy the engines that comparable to what you've got in there now, you're looking at $160,000. So a repower of that boat, well, our client was saying, I'm not adverse to repowering a boat. I'm like, okay, well, that's probably going to be, you know, by the time you've done everything, I can see that the tanks need replacing. You're looking at about $220,000 to $250,000 with your eyes closed on that sort of budget. Oh, okay. So you can see how quickly you can go from having a boat that's worth someone's impression of the boat being worth 280 to going to $500,000, $750,000 boat. And then you've still got a 45-year-old boat that's now getting close to half to 2/3 the cost of a near new boat, right? So this is where our understanding comes in on that sort of that bell curve of value proposition over ease of use. And the other thing too is, let's go back to ease of use. One of the core pillars, like probably one of the most important pillars, I think the two biggest things in the pillars of boat ownership are area of operation, ease of use. Yeah, the budget's a budget, that's what you can afford. And the lifestyle expectation is the thing that identifies these two factors. Now the ease of use, I was saying to the client, not sure how your partner is going to feel when I know what this is going to take to restore this vessel, and you're definitely going to miss the first 12 months of boat usage. You're definitely going to miss that. And that's only if everything goes really right and everything goes to plan and everything's on time and on budget. But I can see this boat costing you 2 boating seasons of use. Are you both going to be okay with the idea of this boat's just been sitting in a yard for 6 months, then it's been sitting in the water doing vettle for another 6 months, then it's been doing this for 6 months, and then there's all these sort of 3-month and 6-month blocks of work. And after 2 years of tinkering with this boat, and every time you go to it, it's just panels out and bits and pieces hanging off the wall, and there's wires hanging out here, and there's contractors there, and you're doing this. As much as I feel that you might be someone who really loves a project and likes getting stuck in with the tools and the hammers and the, you know, pulling things apart and doing the research and buying little bits in and all that sort of thing, that's awesome. But do you really want to be spending that time and money on have-tos rather than want-tos? And that's where that excitement and that really giving yourself time to find a boat is so important. Curb your excitement and enthusiasm for the point where you're actually on the boat. But looking for a boat, even though it's a lifestyle thing and you're doing it for, you're doing it for the enjoyment and the joy of being out in the water. The enjoyment and the joy comes when you're out in the water Finding the boat can be an exciting process, but finding the right boat is way more rewarding. So yeah, get excited for looking and researching and do all that sort of stuff, but get excited for the research process and working with your buyer's advocate, or working with someone who's in that expert. Get the expert advice. You'll hear Janet in her interview say, when it comes to doing new things, we've always been of the mind of getting expert advice, because people have this visualization that it's like buying a car. You know, like, you know what you're getting when you get a car, and you just go in and you go, okay, well, it's got a few Ks on it and rah, it's got a roadworthy, it's roadworthy, got some dealer there. You know what you're dealing with when you use a used car dealer, or even a new car dealer, and you go, it's, you know, it's got all these bits and pieces. It's got 4 wheels of motor, and then, oh, it's got this motor, and it's got that thing, and it's got this, and it's got these buttons and all that sort of stuff. But it's a car. It has headlights, it has a wheel, it has a steering wheel, it has gears, it has all the bits that work, because you can't sell a car that doesn't have all the bits that work here in Australia, at least. So it's actually against the law to sell a car that doesn't work to go on the road. It has to be road registrable and road legal. If you're running to a defined budget, yeah, and yes, I've helped people go from, smaller boats. We've helped everyone from 18 feet to nearly 80 feet, yeah. And we've helped people in second-hand to new, yeah, near new second-hand, which is another beast in itself. And then, like, one of our biggest raving fans was a lovely woman named Kylie, who'd recently got divorced, went out and thought, I want a boat. I've always talked about getting a boat. I want a boat. So she'd had some negative experience with going into somewhere to look for a boat, saying, this is what I want, and literally being told at one point, no, that's not what you want. What you want's this over here. What we've got is this over here. This is really good. This is what you want. And what's your budget? Oh, okay, that's your budget. Right, okay, so this one here is a little bit more, but we could probably do something on the price for you if you like, darling. And that's why she reached out to us. Now, I know that she was on the edge of, I'm over it, I'm done, I don't want to do anything with boating, I'm done. She's now boating just about every other weekend. She's talking about, I said, oh, do you ever think you'll go for a bigger boat? She goes, no, I love Lottie too much, I'll probably just go for a newer engine. So she's realised the dream. So look, I'll wind it up. I think I'd say for every 10-footer boat, give yourself up to a month. Yeah, if you're looking for a 60-foot boat, give yourself 6 months. Give yourself 2 boat show rounds. Give yourself a year. Give yourself time. That's what I'd say, is time heals all wounds. You've got to just get the knowledge. You've got to fill in all the gaps, stitch up all the little, whys and wherefores, and get some advice. Get some people in your corner, and work with, biased people like us, and get the knowledge outside of the sales process. Real, independent knowledge. Now, you'll see that there are people out there that'll go, well, you come to us and then we'll call our network of brokers. You don't want someone with a network of brokers. You want someone with a network of owners to be on your side in this space. So, overexcitement can really lead you down rabbit holes that you don't want to go to. So I'll wrap it up there. Thanks again for your time. Looking forward to catching up with you soon. Happy boating.